Hey, so I have the sunglasses on. I just wanted to see how they look. Y'all like what I got as a gift? Pretty dope, right? All right. So that was just to see how they are. Also, the light is very bright. We have not done an update in a minute, and I wanted to come back and do an update for you all. Um, we'll start with the kind of obvious thing. You can see that I am a lot smaller these days. Gotten smaller over this time. Obviously, you guys have seen some of the changes. Months to months between the different updates. But one of the big things has really been, of course, the change in body, causing a lot of additional, just interesting things to look at. I know there is often a lot of talk of things like body dysmorphia and some of the other psychological conditions that come along with this kind of weight loss. Um, I haven't really experienced those in a negative fashion. It does still surprise me on certain things, like putting on jeans and things like that. It's like, oh, those are too small. It's like they're not too small. You fit these just fine now. That's been a kind of a fun thing to kind of get reminded of. You see yourself every day, so it doesn't seem the same for you. Recording these videos is very much about, also letting me see the progress I've made. This shirt, which some of you may recognize as one I used to wear for dialysis all the time, is way too big. Way, way, way too big. So this is the other reason I wore it. I wanted to, again, I constantly want to feel the difference in how things have progressed. So that's a big thing. Very happy with all that. Many of you who haven't seen me since this process has begun in person, or just have seen me, but it's been quite a while. Apparently, everybody's always very shocked. So, and I didn't get the kind of bobbleheady thing that a lot of people got as well. So I'm really happy about that, obviously. But that has made a big difference for a lot of folks. So I did want to kind of get into that. You can see my beard has kind of gotten wild again. We're letting it grow. As you kind of know, I get this weird patch here at a certain point. So I have not trimmed that up just yet. We're gonna get to that soon. Um, so that's all the cosmetic stuff. Uh, the real reason for this update is to give you guys the deeper news. So, um, the last thing I had to do as part of this process, uh, before they were to relook at my case, was a bone marrow biopsy. So at the end of December, I had a liver biopsy. They found that there was nothing wrong with my liver. Enzymes were all correct. All the current issues seemed to be related to my platelet count. There didn't seem to be any, uh, you know, genetic disorders, autoimmune diseases, or other like liver infections and things of that nature. No, nothing affecting my liver. That's one of the first ones they want to check to make sure, because if there was something wrong, they would have done like a liver transplant as part of this kidney transplant process. Would have delayed things quite a lot. Um, Still, we needed to check and rule out another problem. So, um, as many people may be aware that have started to research on this stuff, uh, you could have a number of autoimmune diseases that cause low platelets. Could be a lot of genetic, hereditarily passed genetic disorders and mutations that could cause low platelets. Both situations could have affected my ability to get a transplant, much less be safe for a transplant. For that, they sent me to Dr. Kosser, Dr. Kosser, oncologist and hematologist, and she set me up for a bone marrow biopsy. That was our last big major hurdle. We did have that back in February, and following that, there were, I think it's about 10 days, of course, of testing that they do to all the blood that they've drawn from that, as well as some other labs they had me do. And that was to lead up to finding out what the final diagnosis was. So my birthday week, we were hoping to hear. I would get represented after hearing back that there were no other diseases or issues besides again the low platelet count, which again we've known about. As it seems, we've known about this low platelet count all the way back to my 2020 hospitalizations at University Health in Lakewood. So I've had a low platelet count issue for quite some time. Not something that anybody was surprised about, but they wanted to kind of get to the bottom of what's going on. So on my birthday, March 14th, we got the phone call from Logan, my coordinator, that I was back in the program, officially going to be listed once I did my listing class, and that with the diagnosis that I just needed to have the platelets raised in time for the surgery, that we would take a wait and see approach. So listing class was this past Friday. As I'm recording this, it's the 25th. To kind of give you range on when that was. Listing class is pretty straightforward. They just go over stuff that I've already known, how the drugs that they'll be giving me work to take care of both anti-rejection as well as to keep me safe from the potential infections that can occur during the immunosuppressant periods that are right after the transplant, as well as having me sign consent form. Now, I'll get to the consent forms and what they really cover here in a second. I want to talk kind of briefly about what this listing class essentially is for. This is an educationary purpose for me. It's reminded me of what my condition is going to be like post-transplant, how that process is going to work as far as what I need to have caregivers for and to do. I do want to thank the following folks that are very important. I definitely want to thank my girlfriend Tunisia, who, despite us being fairly new in our relationship, has already tried to come up already once, but also has committed to coming out at some point during this recovery process. I want to thank, of course, the first person to volunteer to spend that initial and most important first 2 weeks with me. That's my buddy Garrett. I want to thank you so much. He has been on standby for when we thought this thing was going to happen since about November. These delays, of course, have annoyed him as much as they've annoyed me for the same reason. But I kind of, like I said, got a chance to go over with him how the caregiver stuff would work for him during that 2 week period, what the major point in him really being around is for. Of course, I want to thank former paralegal and great friend Mandy, who's also said that she's willing to come up and help out, as well as my cousin Simon, who is already in Kansas City and has committed to doing a lot of the help on things there as well. There's some other folks that are considering possibly coming in for a while as well. We'll talk about that once they're kind of solidified on their plans. I don't want to make you all think somebody's going to be here who's not going to be here. But if you are hearing from Mandy, from my girlfriend Tunisia, or hearing from Garrett, it is most likely to do with something going on during my recovery that is happening. If they're doing an update video, it's because I can't stand to set up and do this. But that discussion process during the listing class was to explain also what my status is. So this is, again, a big part of all this that I want to talk about with you all. So you all know that I have a donor. For her privacy, we have not revealed who that is, but I have said that it is a friend of mine that has agreed to be my donor. I want to thank her for the gift of life, honestly. It has been impressed upon me throughout this process who was really there for me. I'm not making delineation between people who, donated money versus donated time. I'm talking about all of you all. It has been impressed upon me that I really didn't have to go through this alone, and that you all would make sure I didn't go through this alone. And I want to thank you for that. I didn't really think anybody would care enough. There are a lot of things that I cannot do uh, without help. And the hardest part of this process has been asking for help when I needed it. But in all those moments where I've had to ask for, you know, assistance, it has been um, truly wonderful to see the outpouring of support in those moments. Uh, I I am so used to doing it. So I'm so used to being the supportive friend that makes the problem go away, disappear. Like I'm used to being the one that you call when you don't have somebody that can get you the money you need or get you to the place or, help you figure out the thing. That to be the one that needs it and to see how many people, truly just said, no, you need it, I got you. That has been it's been a blessing, really, truly. Um, for someone to go so far as to say, well, I think I got the same blood type, so I'm gonna give you a kidney. Like, I know she's watching this video, and I know other people that know who my donor is are watching this video, and I just want to say, you are giving me a second life, and I am eternally grateful. Um, Words that really can't express what it truly means to me. And I hope that things that I can do before and after this to give you thanks, give you at least an understanding of how deep that thanks comes from. Um, that said, there are things that go along with this. So I'll be starting on what's called status 7. Status 7 is basically the standby status, if you will, for this process. I am officially, by the time you're seeing the video, listed with the kidney network that they have in the U.S. To receive a kidney. But I will be listed on this what they call the standby status, and that is because of the platelets. So again, complex issues causing randomly weird delays. Um, my platelet count being extremely, well, not extremely yet, but my platelet count being so low that they couldn't do the transplant right away um, is something that is up in the air. So, because we know there's no diseases we're like causing this other than what we know of the condition that causes this low platelets, they can immediately in any situation pump my platelets back up to make sure things are okay for transplant. Um, Considering that the transplant it would be happening to lead to the transplant, this would basically be over once I got the transplant. There's some complications. I'll be monitored by the oncologist, hematologist for quite some time after this, but it's not really oh, this is a dangerous thing. We got to be careful. We need an extra week or so to kind of get the medication in you and get the platelets up to where we want them. Um, so to ensure that we're not, taking away from folks who need kidneys faster, because again, I have a donor. She is in the middle of all the workup stuff. The other reason that I'm not telling you who my donor is because she's in the middle of all the workup stuff. So that is an independent process from my side of things with the transplant team that I work with, so that there's not undue influence involved in this process. So my coordinator can't make them go faster. He can only suggest like, hey, we have this ready. We need to see if everything's, okay to move things forward. Um, so what we are essentially doing is, trying to see, is everything okay? That means cross matching her blood with mine to make sure it doesn't react. That means checking for genetic markers and autoimmune diseases on her end. That means checking for just things in general that could delay or otherwise preclude her from transplanting to me. That puts us in some scenarios. So the first, kidneys are fine, matches are fine, she's good to go, we're ready to rock. Once we find that out for certain, they're able to schedule it pretty quickly. Like, honestly, we could schedule it almost a week apart from finding that out. Second scenario, she can donate, but it's not going to work with me specifically. That puts us in a situation where we would have to go find a kidney through what they call the share program. So she would basically donate the kidney. That kidney would go out to the person that needs it, and somebody else's kidney who is a match for me would come to me. That's where we come to the math portion. So there is a set of parameters that they look for you to hit. And because of that, you will be basically put between essentially 20% and 85%. Well, for that, 20% and 85%, since this video is mirrored. That is the range that they look for transplant donations. So 20% basically means you are extremely young, you don't have any complications, and like diabetes, things like that, and you just need a kidney. Like, there's a lot of reasons that can cause that. There can be, genetic reasons. There can be car accidents. There's plenty of stuff that can cause you need one and be like 20%ish. 85% is basically like somebody who's much older, maybe has a number of additional complications to that. Now, this 20 to 85% thing is to essentially determine the kinds of matches they would look for you for transplant. So the example they gave me, 60 to 63-year-old person in need of a kidney, has been diabetic their whole life, has, some diminished, liver usage, things of that nature. They're going to be closer to 85. They're not going to be necessarily 85, but their height, their weight is all going to come into play as well, and that's going to make that decision. So you're looking at a lot fewer like donations that would be on my end of things, and they're going to try to match you with somebody whose kidney kind of fits in those things. So you would end up with matches that are essentially 75% to 85 and above percentage. That's because you might get somebody whose kidney is probably not necessarily going to last more than about 15 years, 10, 15 years, or less. You might want to take somebody who has like an acute risk kidney, and we'll get to that in a second as well. This weight loss was for a purpose, and that was to make me as good of a candidate as possible. I have a stable weight now. We've purposely slowed down my weight loss so that I could be a good candidate for the surgery. We were told back in November, hey, you're losing a lot of weight at a really rapid pace. We want that to slow down, not just because we need to know what a stable weight is for you to do the surgery, but because until it slows down, we don't know how much you're going to lose after the transplant. Again, this transplant will trigger another, they estimate between 30 and 45-pound weight loss for me. So I've now kind of stabilized my weeks at dialysis. I'm between 260 and 270, basically, throughout the course of the week. So it's a good, stable level to sit at, below the number that they normally want you at anyway. So I'm sitting at a good place. With that in place, though, it has me much improved from where I would have started. Again, we started this entire journey at 520 pounds, not able to breathe, barely having my heart beating, sitting in St. Luke's East trying to get this catheter put in. To be at 260 something today on an average basis, essentially we'll call my average 267, we'll say, weekly, is a whole new world. I have lost half of the weight I was. Okay? Like, I've lost half of it. I've lost a whole person. I have lost a whole me that I weigh now in this 2-year process. So that time frame, that weight loss is something that they wanted to monitor as well. So stable now with my age and with the weight loss and with my other conditions having changed from bariatric surgery. Again, my blood glucose is normally low, not high. I have not been able to take my insulin in quite some time because of how low my blood glucose is. My labs at dialysis being as stable as they are, I am a 38 percentile person. What this means is that for the most part, they are not going to look at kidney matches that are over 50% percentile matches. This also means that a lot of my possibilities have expanded. I remember I told you we're going to get back to the whole consent form. So part of this process was getting the consent forms. That was, me deciding whether or not I would accept kidneys that might have been exposed to things like hepatitis B. I'm immune to hepatitis B because I've had my vaccinations and my other treatments, so I don't have to worry about hep B or C for that matter. Acute risk kidneys. Those are kidneys that are folks that have been exposed to potential risks. That can be risk for things like HIV. That can be risk for other drug-borne illnesses through things like transfusions. That can be risks for things like your sexual activities. That can be risks from drug use and things related to that. I have left myself open to all possibilities. So I've consented for those acute risk kidneys. I was consented for the hep B kidneys. Again, things that I don't need to worry about, I'm not going to worry about. This process needs to happen for my sanity, to be honest with you, as fast as possible. So I'm not going to limit myself on these things. I don't know how things are going to change over time. So the kidney share program could extend our wait as long as December. Like that's just it. That's like you're probably going to look at like the end of the year for a kidney if we have to go to the share. Again, we don't necessarily have to go to the share. We're waiting to see if my donor is going to be a full match and not have any complications. If my donor cannot donate at all, which is always a possibility, those are 3 possibilities: perfect match, share match, or not at all. If that's the case, then that extends our journey quite a while. As an O positive and being in the Midwest, I'm better off than I could be being O positive on the cusp. But we're still looking at essentially 4 years. So that would be 2 more years of dialysis and the other related complications. I would still continue to look through for other potential living donors. There are other programs besides finding your own friends and family to do so. So I would look through those to see if I could find a potential match there. But that is what we're looking at, and I want to prepare you for that. So again, if my donor is a complete match, hey, as soon as we got that word, we're scheduled. We're getting on this bet. If my donor is a match but has to go through share, we're probably going to have a few months. That'll change a lot of things I wanted to do this year, but hey, kidney's more important than all that. She's not a match. Worst case scenario, we got a longer wait. But today is a positive day. I am relisted. And with my age, my percentile section, my weight loss, my stability, with all these things that have occurred, we are now at a place where it's not they got to make sure, it's when, it's how fast. And how fast comes down to, like I said, these next tests. My donor goes in for more matching and more, blood draws and things like that coming up here very soon. We are not looking at a long wait. And, my team is very optimistic. Every time I talk to Logan, my coordinator, he is extremely positive about where things are at. Logan shares my exuberance for expedience on this matter. So when Logan was telling me about the platelet issue this past Friday, he said, if we got to go to share or we got to go to a longer wait, It's really just going to be a let's get how fast if we find one, like how fast do we get your platelets up? I said, look, fast as possible. Like I don't care how fast we gotta do it. If we gotta do this thing tomorrow, you know me. He's like, I know. I just have to tell you that in a certain format. And, Logan's good about that. But that is where we are. We are in a place of all testing being done on me. Um, just we're looking at matches. They took some more blood to have fresh matches for both the transplant network as well as for with my donor. Uh, so we are there. I want to thank everybody who has done cool stuff. Like, let me get it. A lot of folks have gone out and picked up the. Oops, I can't get it to there. Oh, you're gonna be weird, aren't you? Yeah, I want to thank everybody who's gone and got. There we go. The Man Called Dragon, the hardcover version. The hardcover version that I came out with is a big deal. Um, you can see that's larger font. It is a large print edition, and it's because my mom honestly said I can't read it. And I was like, can't read it. She's like, yeah, the type's too small in your paperback version. Now it's regular paperback type, but again, you gotta come to reality. And my mom is at an age now where she needs larger, so there will always be a large print version of my books going forward. I want to thank everybody who's read the book so far, picked up copies, everybody who's picked up Lost in My Whirlwind. Again, it's not a new poetry book. I just took some additional pieces that I had worked on, for fun, and put them with a reorganization of all the stuff that I've done so far. Um, for those wondering, it was in fact to get out of the Amazon ecosystem with my poetry books. The ones that are there are still there. You can still pick up those original versions if you'd like, but I won't be doing that again. With Ingram Spark, I've been free to put my books literally everywhere. I'm very happy about that. There's a person out there right now who's working on a review for me. I'm very excited to see her review of The Man Called Dragon. And that brings us to the only really sad news. You may have noticed I've talked about delays and potential issues and how that would affect things. One of the big effects is with the next book in the series from Darkland. Man Called Dragon is, of course, book one. Second book, The Lady from the Rising Sun, was originally slated to come out this August. And I think if this year had been like the first year, I could have done that. But this last year that getting us to this point has had so much more to do and has had so much more of an effect on me physically that there was just no way I could have that book ready to go in time. One, there's my editor. Shout out to my editor, Chris. I want to give Chris plenty of time. Two, and this is just a me thing, I have to have the energy to write. And the unfortunate thing about dialysis is the longer you do it, the more tired you are. I'm literally recording this at 6 in the morning because I was having all kinds of sleep issues over the weekend. And this is finally the time I feel most awake and the least impacted by my condition. It is not common to have the kind of writing projects I have going on at once. I got to give Martin a little bit of stick for this because George R. R. Martin literally is doing too many projects. That's probably why we aren't getting books yet. But in my particular case, just the two projects that I've been working on have taken a lot to work on. It's not for lack of having the information. It's not for lack of creativity to craft what I want. It's not even for lack of like knowing exactly what I want to type. Everything I've been working on lately has timelines. When I say like timelines, I mean like physical. This is when things occur in the line of time. but they've also had outlines made for them. And I just can't. I can't keep the energy level up high enough to sit down and type. There's a lot of days where I do spend most of the day asleep. A lot of people will tell you how hard it is to get a hold of me in the middle of the afternoon, especially on a dialysis day. This means that I would be rushing to booktok. And it is very important, especially for this story, that I don't rush it. I am perfectly fine taking 2 years to do this. And I may make that the standard, but if the transplant happens, that's another 2 months where I'm down and there's just no way I'm going to be right there. As I told you, I have to have caregivers for the first, full month before I can even drive one. But for the first 2 months, it's a very heavy schedule. It's not until the first 2 months are over that I am at a point where the check-ins with the transplant team are even monthly. The first 8 weeks, I am in the transplant office at least once a week. After that is when I go to month. So it's very important that I give myself time. And I want this book to be good. I want you guys to have an even better experience than you had with the Man Called Grandview. So that book will be delayed. It'll come out in 2025 instead of 24. Still August 4th, because that's my day. And I'll have something special for you this August 4th, since I won't have that on August 4th. I told you, I'm reclaiming my birthright. Just because I was out that 1 year, I can't have that happen yet. So look forward to that. I'm excited to work with some of the new folks that I'm working with regarding that side of things. And I talked to some old friends recently. There may be something brewing that I'm not talking about. So that's kind of all the updates. I want to thank everybody who's contributed through GoFundMe or even directly in some cases. I want to thank everybody who's helped out with doing things as I needed them, as well as just helping out with the project stuff. I want to thank the other person who's a potential donor, my friend Cole. Nicole's a friend of mine from the days of role playing on forums, and was ready, willing, and able to be a potential donor for me as well. Finding out that we had the matching blood groups and all that. Her situation's changed, and so she's no longer doing that. But I just wanted to tell her personally thank you, because it's a lot to say yes, even to being a potential donor. So for now, that's all from me. Again, thank you all, and I will talk to you next time. But yeah, I'm glad to have given a chance to give you guys this update. Bye bye.